Hey guys, it's Segura Beauty here, and I am back with another video.
This what happened when I think about you. I get in my feelings, yeah. I start reminiscing, yeah. Next time around, fuck, I want it to be different, yeah.
I wanted to do a get ready with me using high-end products. Now, I did a review of high-end products in a previous video, and I will link that in the cards above. I also did a review of some of my favorite affordable products, and I will also link that above. So let's get into this get ready with me of sorts, okay? So what you always want to do, of course, is start off with a clean face. So I always use my CeraVe cleansing products. And so I've already washed my face. I've already did my brows the best of my ability. I see some brows on some of these women on here, and they are on fleek. Do they still say that, or does that date me? Listen, they look gorgeous, and I'm hoping one day that I can become that talented, whereas I can get my brows to look that way as well, okay? So, anyway, let's get started. Since we've already got a clean face, we've got our brows done, we're gonna start with primer. So, today's primer that I think I'm going to use is going to be, I've got two. I've got the Il Maquillage, and I've got my Hourglass Vanish. I think I'm going to go with the Il Maquillage today. So I'm going to attempt to do a talk through as we get ready. I'm not really good at multitasking, so please take all mistakes for love. But I made a video earlier, and I don't know if it's been posted yet, but if it is, I will leave a link to it below and leave it in the cards as well. But I did a video on surviving domestic violence, okay? And if you have not watched that video, then I ask you to go and watch that one before you continue with this one. So pause this video and go and watch that one, and then come back to this one, okay? So in my previous video, this is Urban Decay's eyeshadow primer. In my previous video, I talked about how I overcame domestic violence. And my story was not your typical battered wife, battered spouse, battered girlfriend story. It was a story of my mother as a battered spouse. And so this follow-up video will talk about the effects that domestic violence has on our children. My mother, as I stated in my previous video, had 8 children. I was the oldest of the 8. There was me, and then I have a sister that's about 2.5 years younger than me. We share the same father. And then my last 6 siblings, they share the same father, which is whom my mother was married to, okay? So that's the background. This man, my stepfather, my sibling's father, this is the chocolate palette by Juvia's Place. And you guys know I love my nudes, okay? And y'all bear with me, because y'all know I'm trying to multitask, and I'm not very good at it. But this man terrorized my mom. Like, he treated my mother like a child. My mother could not go anywhere. She did work outside the home. She had 8 kids, you know, and so she had 7 while I was still home. I graduated at 17, and then I went into the military. So when I left the house, my mother had 7 children, and I was the oldest of the 7, okay? So he terrorized my mother. My mother got to work outside of the house. My mother did not even learn how to drive until she was like 25 years old. And then he bought her a car which he constantly fixed. And when I say fixed, I mean he always made it to where it was inoperable, especially when he wasn't there. My stepfather worked in a city about an hour away. And if you watch my last video, you'll know what he did for a living, so I'm not going to tell you. So you'll have to go watch that video to find out what he did for a living, okay? So he worked about an hour away from where we lived. But on his days off, he would come home and he would be there to terrorize the family. Now, I am the oldest of all of the children. So at that time, I was the oldest of 7 kids, okay? And when my mother got with my stepfather, I was probably about 3 or 4 years old, okay? So he was around for a long time. And as far as I can remember, for the entire time, as far as I can remember, well, no, I take that back. When he initially met my mother, my grandmother was still living, and my mother was living with my grandmother, and it was me and probably about 3 other siblings at that time. My grandmother passed away, and when my grandmother passed away, that's when the abuse started, okay? Because my mother had nobody to protect her, you know? She was an only child of sorts. She had cousins, she had god siblings, but it was just really her and my grandmother, okay? So when my grandmother passed away, she had no protection. And then that's when he became the monster that he was. I'm just gonna wet my brush with some setting spray to apply my lid shade. So my mother couldn't go anywhere other than work. She couldn't do anything. She had to sneak and, go do this and sneak and go do that. My mother loved to play bingo. She loved bingo. She loved to play cards, tonk, if you would. I never learned how to play that, but she would have to sneak and go do that on the days that he was working. And she would sneak to her cousin's house or to her friend's house, or sometimes she would get really bold and we would have card games at our house. And back in those days, when your mother had company over, your parents had company over, the kids had to go in the back room. We were not allowed to sit around other adults while they talk or did anything, so we had to go into the back room. So, there would be times when he would show up and we didn't know that he was coming, and my mother wouldn't be there because my brush broke. My mother wouldn't be there because she had gone over to maybe her cousin's house or, a friend's house, whatever. So we would have to call my mom, sneak and call my mom. We had a house phone, a rotary phone that hung on the wall that we were not allowed to use per my stepfather. But we would sneak and call my mom and let her know that he was there. And so my mom would rush home with a lie up to where she's been, and that wouldn't do any well because he would still beat her. Why? Because she wasn't there, because he wanted to control everything and every facet of her life. And as a child, we lived in a shotgun house. In a shotgun house, just shoot straight back. So my mother had her room, and then my siblings and I shared one big giant room, like we were in basic training or something. But we had about 3 sets of bunk beds, 3 sets of bunk beds. And all you could hear, the walls were not very insulated. So all you could hear is my mother screaming, my mother crying, my mother begging for him to stop. You could hear the licks sounding off, and it was terrifying. And as a child, all you can do is you sit there and you listen and you feel so helpless and so hopeless because this is a big, strong guy. And if you watch my other video, you'll know what he did for a living. And there's nothing that you can do except just sit there and pray and just be glad when it's over. And not even so much for your sake, but for your mom's sake. And this went on for at least about 14 years, guys. I mean, seriously, 14 years. He would break my mother's car intentionally so she couldn't go anywhere. And then it miraculously worked when he was there so she could go to work. There were times when my mother had a car, and because he had fixed it, she couldn't drive it, so she would have to call a cab and go to work. But I'm getting off key. The effects that abuse had on her children, specifically, I'm going to talk about me. I can't speak for my other siblings. I can only speak for me, because me and my sister that share the same father, we're the two oldest. I believe that we got it worse out of the 8 of us because we did have a different father. And so not only did he physically abuse us, he sexually abused us. But I won't talk about that in this video. But I will talk about the effect that the abuse my mother endured had on me. I am almost 55 years old. To this day, this very day, I still have nightmares about that man. My mother passed away in 2003. That was the last time that I saw, I'm going to use this Il Maquillage foundation in the color After Party 170, okay? My mother passed away in 2003. That was the last time I saw my stepfather. And if I never see him again, I'm okay with that, okay? That's not me being rude. That's not me being mean. That's not me being disrespectful. I try not to use the word hate, but as a person, I strongly dislike him. Strongly, okay? So as I became an adult, because of the abuse that I endured as a child, seeing my mom getting beat, and the molestation that I endured, and this is what that color Il Maquillage After Party looks like, okay? The pain I seen inflicted on my mom. You know, I got married when I was 19. I left home when I was 17 because I graduated high school at 17. And I did not want to stay there. My mother was still with him at this time, and I did not want to stay there not a minute longer. So I left, and I joined the Army. I went away to the military. And shortly thereafter, I got married, and I had my first child, my son, who is now deceased. He passed away at the age of 26, back in 2016, okay? I had my first child, and it was a boy. So I wasn't too overprotective at that time, not really. But what I would not do is, I would not leave him with anybody. When I would go home to visit my mother, because I was in the military at this time, and so was my then husband, when I would go home to visit my mother, and I would take my son, while my nieces and nephews were left to play there, I didn't leave him. I did not trust their paternal grandfather, my mother's husband, not even with my child. So I would not leave him. Okay. When my daughter came along about 2 years later, I had a little girl. She is now also deceased. She died back in 2020 at the age of 28. So I've lost both of my children, okay? The Lord only blessed me with 2, okay? So when I had my daughter, I was extremely overprotective of her, to the point to where, this is a double-decker mascara by Butter London. I love this mascara. I was so overprotective of her that I would not even leave her with her father. Even if I ran around the corner to the store, up the street to the store, no matter where I would go, I wouldn't leave her because I didn't trust. Not that he had done anything to her. Not that I thought he was that type of person. I just didn't trust men at that point. I didn't. My stepfather had been such a horrible person, to my mom, to us, till I just didn't trust. I didn't trust my kids with anybody. It took a long time. I'm not going to even lie to you. It took a long time for me to even allow my daughter to stay home with her dad without me being there. And for no other reason than the way my stepdad treated me and my sister and my mom. So that was unfair. Doesn't make a lot of sense to do my makeup if I'm only going to ruin it by crying, huh? Give me a second. Okay, so I think I've got my bearings back. So, for the longest time, I would not allow my children to be out of my sight. I did not work the first 8 years, 8 or 9 years after I started having kids because I just didn't want to leave them anywhere. I did not want to leave them anywhere until they were old enough to talk and tell me any and everything. Okay, so for the first 8, 9 years of their life, I did not work. I was a stay-home mom. I did not allow them to spend the night anywhere. Even when they became a little bit older and they were elementary school age, middle school age, the only place that they could spend the night were their godparents. Those are the only people that I ever trusted with them. That's the only place that they were ever allowed to stay the night because I didn't trust anyone with them, especially my daughter. And I know that boys can be, abused and misused and molested as well, but I was more focused on her. So for the longest, I didn't allow them to go anywhere, to do anything, especially to spend the night anywhere. I'm gonna set it with this It's Your Skin But Better powder, okay? I've given my foundation a chance to just kind of settle into my face, so I'm going to go ahead on and use the powder. But I say all that to say this because I don't want to make this video extra long. When you are a victim of domestic violence, okay? Mothers, I want you to hear me. And I want you to hear me good. When you're a victim of domestic violence, you're not the only victim. You got to think about your children and what they are enduring at this time as well. What they are seeing, they're seeing you with the bruises, with the black eyes, with the busted lips, with the busted nose, the mental abuse, the physical abuse, the emotional abuse. You're a grown woman and you're being treated like a child. You gotta sneak and go this place and sneak and go that place. You're freaking 30 plus years old. I mean, my God, why? But unless you've endured that, unless you've been a product of that environment, a lot of times batterers, they cut you off from your family and your friends and sometimes even financially. Fortunately, my mother worked, so she had her own money, but he had isolated her from her family, from her god sisters, from her cousins, just her and us. We were not allowed to have company. We were not allowed to go anywhere. I had to actually get a job in the 11th grade just so I can get out the house. So my point is, mothers, it's not just you that's being battered. It's not just you that's being abused. It's not just you that's suffering at the hands of the batterer. Your children are suffering as well because they hear and they see everything and there's nothing they can do about it, and they feel helpless and they feel hopeless, and it affects them even later on in their lives. It did for me. because I was so overprotective of my children. Oh my God, I was so overprotective of them. And as I look back now, I think I was too overprotective. But that was a result of what I had endured, and that was me trying to protect them from the things I had endured as a child and as a teenager. Even as a teenager, I still endured certain things at the hands of my stepfather. So I was trying to protect my children from that, and I now realize that in doing that, it probably made them more sneaky. But that's not what this video is about. This video is just to let you know that abuse has an effect on your children as well. So if you find yourself in an abusive relationship, an abusive marriage, whatever the case may be, if you have children, if you don't get out for your sake and for your safety, then please do it for the safety of your children. Please do it because it affects their mental, and it even affects their relationships later on in life. Even if we may not believe that that's the case, or even realize that's what's going on, it is. It affects us even later in life. And I promise you, to this day, I still have nightmares about this man, and this is just chapstick. I still have nightmares about this man, and I haven't seen him since my mother's funeral in 2003, and I don't ever want to see him again, honestly. And this may be a mean thing to say, but if I got the call that he died today, I wouldn't shed one single tear. Probably wouldn't even go to the funeral. If I did, it would just be to look over in the casket and say, oh yeah, so he really is dead, huh? And my mother died at the age of 51, and I can't help but believe that the abuse that she suffered at his hands for so long aided in that early demise. My mother had high blood pressure, and she ended up suffering a brain stroke. She had endured so much at this man's hands, and she stayed for so long. She did get away, and you'll have to watch my other video to find out what happened and how she got away, and that story behind that, okay? This is Anastasia's Lip Velvet lipstick that I'm using. But that's my story, guys. I'm not going to say much more because I'm trying not to ruin my makeup anymore. And if I keep talking, I'm going to keep crying. And I don't want to do that. But yeah, just mothers, be cognizant of who you bring around your children and the effects. Another thing I'll tell you, another reason why you don't want to have this around your children. Mothers, we don't want our sons to grow up thinking it's okay to treat women or men, because there's abuse in the gay and lesbian world as well. But we don't want our sons to grow up thinking it's okay to put their hands on women, because it's not. And we don't want our girls to grow up thinking it's okay to have a man treat me like this, because I saw my mom go through this and she stayed 15, 20 years and she made it through. She survived. No. The reason why your mother probably stayed as long as she did because she had nowhere else to go, because he had isolated her from her family, from her friends, and maybe financially, or maybe he did like my stepfather told my mom, if you leave, I'm going to kill you. And maybe she was scared to go. But ladies, you got to get away. Men, you've got to get away. Because there are battered men out there too. It's not just us ladies. But the 95% is women. Okay? Let's be real. Because we are the weaker vessel, okay? But ladies, you've got to, if you find yourself in an abusive relationship, be it verbally, emotional, mental, physical, you've got to find the strength. You've got to get out. Because it's not just affecting you, it's affecting your children, okay? They don't want to see you with black eyes. They don't want to see you with swollen lips. They don't want to hear the lick sounding off. They don't want to hear your head sounding off the wall and off of the... Please, just go. Even if you have to go to a shelter, and I know you probably don't want to do that, but they have programs in place to help battered spouses. Please, just get out, okay? If not for you, then for your children, okay? So that is the end of my story, and this is the end of my look. I don't do well at multitasking, so I was really trying to do this get ready and the story time at the same time. Let me know in the comment sections how I did, okay? Because I suck at multitasking. I did a review on this wig. I don't know if it'll come out before or after this video. If it comes out before this video, I will link it in the description box below. If not, then you will have to keep your eye out for this video on my channel so you can take a look at it and give me your thoughts on it as well. That is all I have for today. This is my look, and I'm not going anywhere. I just wanted to sit down and talk with you guys, and I figured why not do it and just, you know, like just do a get ready with me while I sit down and talk with you all. So that is it. Now, it is Labor Day weekend, so I hope I get this video up this weekend. And I have a new camera. Right now I'm recording with my iPhone, but I have a new camera that I want to play with this weekend and hopefully figure out how to use and how to record with it, and hopefully my video quality will be hopefully my video quality will get better. Hopefully I will get better. But that is all that I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share. Hit that notification button so that you are notified when I post my next video. I do thank you all that support me, especially those that support me on a regular basis. Please comment below, even if it's just to say hello. Your interactions with me helps my algorithms, and it helps YouTube to push me out there a little bit more. And remember, I am doing a challenge. I'm trying to make it to 500 subscribers by my 55th birthday, which is this November. So if you have not subscribed, please take a moment to do so, okay? Come on and grow with me. That's my slogan. Come and grow with me, okay? And until the next video, you guys have a blessed and safe weekend. Bye-bye.